I am so fancy. That's the things that I like about this.
In a few minutes, we'll find out just how fancy you are, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. This is Basic AF episode 83. Show notes for this episode can be found at basicafshow.com/83. In this episode, we're going to talk about my brief hands-on with MacBook Neo, David Pogue's new book, Apple, the First 50 Years, and a bunch more. How's it going, everybody? I'm Tom Anderson. Good to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us, as always. And good morning, Jeff Battersby.
Tom, you relegated me to a bunch more. What's that about?
What do you mean?
Second fiddle. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this, all things that you did, and a bunch more.
And a bunch more. That's the good stuff, the bunch more.
Is that what it... Oh, okay.
Right, that's the cliffhanger.
I'm hanging.
Right.
I'm hanging by the cliff. Thank you
hanging by a thread, so we better get on with this. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. But how are you doing?
Mr. Fluman, I'm actually really good.
Good.
I am back to driving again, so...
Nice.
Taking myself everywhere. And, you know, as is my want, I did a double at the bar the other day, so worked 12 plus hours, which is a lot, but...
That is.
I did it. I pushed myself to that, so that's good. And then, sadly, my former sister-in-law's mother passed away in Springfield, Mass. So I went to see her and my niece, and you know, say goodbye to Yaya, Y-I-A-Y-I-A, who actually her name was Chrysanthi. She's sweet as heck, and so we bid our goodbyes to her and then drove back. But Springfield from my house is 2+ hours. So that was 4 hours of driving, and that whooped me as much as the 12-hour day. Yeah, but it was good. It was really, really happy to be able to go and support them. And it's kind of cool too. I was, sitting in Greek Orthodox church. Amazing iconography in that church. Like, I was not really paying attention to the message. Don't tell anybody. And was just kind of staring at the ceiling, and it truly gorgeous. The inside of this church was amazing. So did that, and that was, that was good. But that was a big driving experience.
Yeah.
2 hours each way, 4 hours total. You, on the other hand, got the flu.
I did, at least a touch of it. Not feeling too bad today, but spent the week at a conference down in Portsmouth, Virginia. So there's a annual, I believe it's the association, this is like a higher ed thing, just the name, the Association of Collegiate Computing Services. Everything's got to be like grandiose. But everybody just
brought
calls
a business card.
ACCS, but it's actually it's one of my favorite conferences. It basically encompasses schools in the Commonwealth. So UVA's there, Tech's there, we go, a bunch of other schools, and then it's all people from the IT department by and large. And so we all go to presentations. We've presented, 6 or 8 times since I've been at the university anyway. But it's really good. Like lots of, our peers there, and, you can actually learn a lot and make some good connections. And we're all in similar situations. There's limited money. There's always too much to do with that limited money. And so we commiserate, share ideas, and pick up the flu here and there. But
okay, that's great. And avoid bomb threats and shootings, which is
right. Yeah, that was
got this week too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the shooting was across the river at Old Dominion, which is sad. And then the bomb threats apparently were to several schools in Virginia, maybe other places too. But I saw the ones in Virginia, like UVA got it, we got it, George Mason, and some others.
That conference, good segue into you getting your hands on the MacBook Neo. So you got to play with one of those.
Yeah, and it was very, very short. So this is not like I did not really use it or anything, but I got to hold it, check it out. There was an Apple session there, and one of the account execs, it's actually our account exec, had a couple there, and so got to take a look at it and got some photos, which we can maybe link out to in the show notes somehow. It's nice. It's about as heavy as my MacBook Air. So I've got a 13.6-inch MacBook Air. So it's about the same weight, a little smaller screen size, as you know, because it's only a 13-inch.
Right.
They had the Indigo and Silver, both the 256 gig models with just the lock button and no Touch ID. But I'd like to get, I think we're going to get one at work just to test, and maybe I'll use it for a little while to really be able to say how it is. But I mean, quality wise, it's just like everybody's saying in the reviews, like for the money, this is going to practically blow away everything else quality wise. Yeah. Like it's 100%, Apple MacBook. It's not the cheap Apple MacBook by, feeling cheap and flimsy and doesn't squeak and crack or creak and moan. Remember those plastic MacBooks we had back in 2007, 2008? Yeah. Those things would creak a little bit, like right.
You get
which I had a couple of those. I thought they were still decent, but
they're amazing.
None of that with these. Screen is bright enough, I think, for most cases, especially for the price. Which again, if you're able to get that education discount, it's almost a no-brainer if you're looking for something.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so cheap. I mean, $499 or $599, depending on which model you want to get. I wish I could have, borrowed it for a week and then at least messed with it some over the last couple of days so I could have given a better report. But otherwise, I mean, it's a MacBook, but it's a very inexpensive, high-quality MacBook.
Amazing. And we'll tease this. Nate, who was on when I wasn't, Nate Gorby is going to be on. He has one, and so we'll have him next show. He will have had that for a couple of weeks and had the opportunity to really run it through its paces. So we'll have him on to talk about his experience with the MacBook Neo. I from everything I've seen, and I have not put my hands on it. I played with the idea on my way back from Springfield of swinging by the Apple Store and just goofing around with one for a few minutes, but it was like, I don't want to stop. I don't want to get out of my car. I just want to get home and take a nap, which is what I did. I got home, I laid down on the couch, and that was the end of me for about an hour. So I did not stop to see it, but I'm really curious to get my hands on one of these just to kind of get a feel for what it can do, and I'm impressed. And I think everybody that has put their hands on this and actually used it. The initial thing was, it's going to be a piece of garbage. 8 gigs of RAM, and
it's an iPhone chip.
Right, it's an iPhone in a Mac. I think hands down, everybody so far has been very impressed with the capabilities. It's not, if you're making movies, it's not the thing that you're going to buy, but you can make movies on it. You can mix music on it. You can do all the things that you need to do. And it's aimed at probably people that are, that were thinking of a Chromebook.
Right.
It's super, super good computer. And one that I will recommend to the vast majority of people I know who are going to use, who would be looking for a cheap Mac.
Just to do the basics.
Right.
And
to write an email. Surf the web.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I remember, it seems like it was 6 or 7 years ago, maybe longer now. And it was before the M series chips came around. So before the first M1 Mac Mini back in 2020, I believe that was. And people would run the benchmarks on the phone chips, right, in the phones. And so they would say like, the single core is as good as the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Now where it falls off is when you get into the multi-core, of course, because they're more loaded up. And so even back then, before, these were performing well for those types of things. And a lot of this discussion that you see is like, well, it's an iPhone chip and it's 8 gigs of RAM. And it kind of took me back to that first batch of M1 systems that had 8 gigs of RAM in them. And they didn't have the 16 gig option yet. I think that came a little bit later. And people were kind of skeptical about it. And then I remember they were, once they got their hands on them, they were like, oh, this is amazing. It runs so well. And because I had one, the test unit we bought of the 13-inch, I think it was the MacBook Pro 13-inch M1. I remember telling you, like, 8 gigs of RAM, but I didn't notice any difference. And I run, 8 to 10 apps, 1 or 2 browsers with a ridiculous number of browser tabs. It's almost embarrassing to say, but bookmark when you can just have tabs.
Right.
Yeah. And so it kind of reminded me of that, where it's like, we're kind of having the same discussion, and it's like, well, it was okay back then, and it's going to be mostly okay now, unless you're doing like really, really, really pushing these systems, which is not what they're made for. So if you're in the sweet spot for it, I mean, it's going to be great. Like, it's interesting that they're doing this now, but I think it's awesome. Like,
yeah.
How long? Like, you couldn't say, well, I'd like to get a Mac, but geez, I don't want to spend $1,000. And the MacBook Air got down close with education prior to, I think it started $899, but then it was still $899. But they kept that M1 MacBook Air at Walmart for, I think that was $599, I think it was. So you could do it, but it wasn't really like well known, and it always felt like it was like, you're just buying an old product,
Right.
But this doesn't have that feel. Like, obviously, it's not a brand new chip, but it's close enough.
Yeah, and I want to point out, too, it's important to note that the 8 gigs is a limitation of the chip itself. They can't do more than 8 gigs of RAM with this particular chip. So that makes a difference, too, just so people understand it. If it does end up getting an A19, in a future iteration, that does 12 gigs of RAM. Still not a ton, but again, more than enough for the average user. I can't even remember how much I've got. Maybe 16 gigs in my MacBook Pro. I don't need more than that. I'm not doing anything that requires. I'm using a text editor basically. That's. Typing words, and I can't type fast enough to make it. So that thing's not sitting around saying, "Can't you give me something else to do?"
I've started to hit the upper limits of my 16 gig systems. Like I look at the activity monitor, which, by the way, if you ever want to see like how much memory you're actually using, you can go into the activity monitor application. There's a memory tab there, and you can see the memory pressure, which is kind of a visual indicator of how hard you're maxing the RAM on the system. So if it's in green, you're barely doing anything. Yellow, as it starts to creep up, is you're getting into that point where you're using all the RAM, which ideally the system should use as much RAM as it needs. That's what it's there for. But one thing to kind of look at is just to the right of that indicator, there is a section that shows like the amount of RAM, how much you're using, and then swap. And so swap is where it's using space on the disk instead of keeping it in memory, and it just, as the name implies, swaps it back and forth as it needs to. Thing is, the storage systems are so freaking fast these days, you hardly notice. And so it's like I'm using 4 to 8 gigs of swap. Do I really notice? Not really. No. Sometimes it stutters a little bit when I go back and forth between applications or browser tabs, might reload or something. But there's a little tech tip if you ever wanted to see how much memory you're actually using. And that's not to say there are not workflows. Certainly there are where you need to max those out, especially as you get into the Mac Studio. You can really pack those full of RAM. People are doing that now and running LLMs locally on the machines and then connecting, 3 or 4 systems together over Thunderbolt to take advantage of the GPU and everything. So if you've got to spare $50,000, Jeff, there's a good project for you.
Yeah, I think if I look behind me here on the floor, somewhere there's a pile of
cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's from the sponsors of this show. We appreciate them.
Yeah. Thank you so much to every sponsor who has facilitated our hefty lifestyle. 100 bands, baby. I got a bunch of 100 bands sitting out there.
Give me them honeys.
Yeah, right. You bet.
All right, so we'll look forward to Nate coming on with this next episode. He's got the citrus model, too, so hopefully
which I really like. You didn't get to see one, but man, that color looks amazing to me. That would be what I'd get if I got one.
Yeah, I wanted to see that one, but they only had the 2. I like the Indigo. I think it looks really nice.
Is it kind of purpley? It looks kind of purpley in your pictures.
In different light, yeah, it kind of shifts. a little bit. In person, it's definitely like a blue purple mix.
Okay.
Is, I think like the Midnight MacBook Air. Midnight, what was the blue one? Maybe it's just Midnight. I don't think there was the sky blue, but not talking about that one. Yeah. Fingerprints were a thing. I think anytime you get skewed to the darker colors, you're just going to see those just like on the keyboards. But anyhow, we'll see what he's got to say. Because I think he got his on Wednesday this week, which is the day they shipped. So he'll have a full couple of weeks with it by then.
Yeah, be great. I'm looking forward to it too. Looking forward to actually showing up for a show that Nate's going to be on.
And he's going to be offended if you skip out on him again.
Right. Yeah. I can't make it, Nate. Sorry, man.
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing, David Pogue has a new book out. David Pogue, who for years wrote for Macworld, was the back page guy for Macworld, went to the New York Times for a little minute. I think he's on CBS now as a tech correspondent on CBS. Anyway, he came up with a new book, Apple, The First 50 Years. And Tom, once again, you've had your hands on this. You picked up the book, actually ordered it before it was due to come out. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Didn't you pre-order this and it showed up at your doorstep on the day it was published? So talk to us a little bit about that book.
So I have spent all of 15 minutes with this book because I was out of town and it came in the day I left. So let me grab it here real quick. Not that
because everybody's going to want to see it on radio.
Here you go, you guys. See? Hey, there you go. No, but it's a big book. 600 pages of Apple history on products, the company's origins, key personnel, the struggles, the product development, so forth and so on. So I like these kind of books, being a Apple nerd, big nerd, yes. And so it's $50, which isn't bad. You can get it for $39, I think. And Amazon actually gave me a refund for $7 because they said if it actually goes to a lower price before yours ships, we'll give you your credit back. So they did. So good for them for that. I will say it's not a design book. Like, you remember that book Apple did a few years ago, designed by Apple in California? It was, I think, like a coffee table book. It was ridiculously expensive. It was like $200 for the smaller one, $250 or $300, whatever it was for the big one.
And you didn't get a couple of those?
Well, I didn't have the stacks of cash we do now because of the sponsors.
Right,
So,
the sponsorship is making it so
it
we
hadn't
can get
happened by then.
Want. Yeah,
that's why I could get this book and not that one. But that book had like the glossy pages and like the big pictures of the products and everything. This is not that. This is like a, the textbook basically of Apple history. But I skimmed through it, and it is interesting. Like something I showed Jeff before we started, they have a picture of the mock-up of what eventually became the first PowerBook that Apple made. And kind of the backstory there from what I saw when I skimmed through says may not be 100% on the nose, but the guy who did that kind of did it. And initially they were like, no, this will never work. This design won't work, but he stuck with it. And apparently he would kind of sneak in the evenings and work on it because I think they were trying to shut it down. And he was like, no, I think I got something here. And then he worked on it, and it ended up actually being something that they wanted to do. And one of the things they mentioned in the book was that one of the key kind of innovations there is they moved the battery to the palm rest, because the PowerBook, if you look at MacBooks today, they still reflect that kind of design, because PC laptops back then, the keyboard was right up on the edge in the front. So like the front half, and then they had the trackball would hang off the side. And so with the PowerBook, Apple shifted the keyboard back, and then they put a trackball dead center where the trackpad is on modern day laptops. And one of the key things they found is with shifting the battery and the weight forward, that the laptop wouldn't tip over nearly as easily as if before in some of the other designs. So that was interesting. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I like to geek out on, just see what people's thinking is and how we ended up where we are. Because today, to this day, the trackpad's still up in the front, keyboard's in the back, and off we go.
And that palm rest is kind of brilliant too, honestly. It's like I overuse it, I think, and I have trouble. My thumbs kind of drag on the trackpad and on all the modern MacBook Pros, they have palm detection. On the Magic Keyboard, they don't. So I end up, the cursor ends up flying all over the place when I try to write on the iPad. Nonetheless, it still works pretty well. So there's a lot of things that they were able to do with that. But the fact that, in the old PC laptops, your palms were hanging on the table, and those things were not thin in those days, right?
No.
They were inch, at least an inch thick. So carpal tunnel, all that kind of stuff, because your hands were kind of moving backwards in order for you to be able to type on that were a problem, unless you were a brilliant touch typist, which I'm not. If you're a good touch typist, then everything works the way it's supposed to. But
right, you have your wrists. Oops, sorry. You have your wrists up, and everything is great. I'm too lazy for that. I'm pretty good touch typist, but I don't keep that.
Yeah, I'm
position.
fast too. I'm over 60 words a minute, which is great, but not with any kind of actual form. That I only took 3 days of typing in high school, and then I met Lisa Kino. And Tom didn't even flinch at that, and I stuck around for the driving class, but I did not stick around for the typing class. So,
you bailed out.
Lisa was a little too interesting. You still not.
That happens in high school. Yeah.
Tom's
so I had to hit the cough button because of the stupid flu. So you got into that, and I'm looking for the button, and I totally missed it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, great. That's good.
I let you down again.
You're the only guy I'm here to get a reaction from, and you just kind of glossed over it. So thanks, Tom. Thanks for making me feel good.
That's what I'm here.
Yeah.
For.
So
Kinda.
Anyway, all that to say that palm rest. Not only made it easier for you to be able to type, there's a bunch of innovations that sounds like by accident showed up because you had the battery, the battery moved so far forward, created a bunch of other things that I think most laptop manufacturers now follow. Like, I think that keyboard is back and the palm rest is forward, stupid little thing, battery balance, palm rest, a number of other things. So pretty interesting to see. And I think interesting to note that any creative thing, a lot of things are by accident. You don't actually, you don't come with all the pieces of the puzzle in your head. You kind of discover them as you're going along, which is important to remember. And I think that's
you got to get the reps in on things. Like you can sketch it out, draw it out, think about it, but until you start to actually do it, it's when you start to really figure out some things. And I'm always kind of partial to that design. That was the first Mac I bought. It was the PowerBook 165C back in, I think it was 1994.
Active Matrix.
I had the passive matrix. I was too poor for the active matrix. That was the 180C, which was $3,600, I think, in $1994. So it's like, I don't think I can swing that one. And it was the display on the 165 wasn't that big. I think it was maybe 7 or 8 inches, maybe.
Yeah.
The active matrix screen was even smaller because it just couldn't get screens that big, and I guess keep it under $5,000 or something. But man, I love that thing. That's where I kind of fell into the whole Apple thing with that. I think I had the 4 megs of RAM.
Okay.
4 megs. We were just talking about 8 gigs. Now 4 megs. And I think the 160 meg hard drive is the one I had. I think it was a 160 and a 320, but
never going to use that either.
No, why would you ever fill that up?
Fill that up.
Yeah, and so I started to fill that up. And then a guy that I worked with at AOL back at that time, he also had a computer store in Leesburg, Virginia. And I cannot remember the name of it, but he was an Apple reseller. And so I bought an external drive from him, a SCSI external drive. Yeah, because it had SCSI port on it.
Get the switches right.
Yep. 1 gigabyte. $1,000.
Wow.
$1,000 for 1 gig. And now I was like, I'll never fill that up.
Terabyte drives for a couple $100.
Yeah, so it's for us old heads, it's remarkable how far things have come.
Speak for yourself, pal. I'm not
prices. Old. No, forever young, Jeff.
Never letting the old man get in. That's a great line.
I need a nap after I drove.
Yeah, shut up, Tom.
And before we recorded, I told Jeff the 4-hour drive back home with the flu felt like 12, so I'm right there with him on that. So, yeah. So people. I'll go through this book. Maybe, sometime in the summer we'll come back to it and give you a better feel for what I think.
That'd be interesting.
Just like I said, I really had about 15 minutes with it. And you can get it on Kindle too, so if you don't want to get the hardback cover. But my thinking was with the pictures and everything, I kind of wanted to see it.
I want to smell the pages.
Now I'm like, having seen because it's not glossy paper, it's just like a book, regular book, maybe a step up. I think maybe I could have gotten the Kindle version and not lost too much, to be honest. But it's fine. So anyway, we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well.
Cool.
So, Jeff.
All right, Tom.
Word on the street is you may have a new sport.
I'm a little embarrassed.
That you're liking.
Yeah. So, Apple on Apple TV Plus now has F1 free for anybody who cares to watch. And I was like, I saw the F1 movie, which is actually quite good. Where I watched it a couple of months ago, Brad Pitt, and I think it became a pretty big deal for Apple. I mean, it's like a well-written Bruckheimer kind of movie, where there's zoomy racing, there's a little bit of love story, there's, the battle between the old cowboy and the young buck who thinks he knows everything. It's the usual Hollywood fare, but really well done. That was intriguing and kind of fun, but didn't do anything. But then Apple contracted to broadcast every single F1 race. So they have every single F1 race for free, which, by the way, MLS Soccer is now free to anybody who has Apple TV Plus too, just so you know. So if you want to watch second-rate soccer, you can do that now without having to pay for it. Sorry. Did I say that? I said that, didn't I?
Mm-hmm. You did.
I said it and I meant it. So F1, and they kind of kicked it off. Netflix has been running, I guess, for the last 8 years. I never paid any attention to it, but Netflix for the last 8 years has been running kind of well, it wasn't even kind of, it would like follow every race and then interview the guys that were racing, and, interesting show. So they actually, Apple contracted to broadcast the current version of that. And so I watched that from end to end, which, as any good drug dealer will tell you, the first taste is free and everything else is free in this case. So I have started watching F1 and I find it very interesting. I do not consider myself at all, NASCAR or any other kind of IndyCar racing. That stuff does not appeal to me. But there's something very intriguing about F1 that I did not realize. First of all, they are super tech savvy. Like, they are monitoring every little thing on these vehicles as they go. Tire temperature, what's going on with the brakes. Like, they're sitting in a booth watching what's going on, and it's pretty impressive what they're doing. The race cars themselves, apparently there's an F1 redesign this year, which, I have no idea. They're supposed to use more battery power than they are gas. That's kind of the transition. So they're moving it that way, which all the drivers are bitching about. But these cars, it's like they snap in a steering wheel, and it looks like they got a PlayStation in there. No, it's like really, it's crazy. It's got these little blinky lights and the buttons that you press, and it steers the car. But it's really very, very interesting. So I have suddenly become an F1 aficionado, which is crazy to me. I never thought that would happen. I will not be staying up to watch the China race at 3 a.m. this morning. I will watch it after that's all over. But I did watch the sprints last night, which were like at 11 o'clock, and it was fun to watch. Really kind of fun to watch. So if you have Apple TV, I suggest that you have a look at F1. I really, really am surprised at how interested I've become in this. I don't know that it will last all that long. Like the first race, I watched pretty much every qualifying round. This, I watched the sprint last night, which was a real race. And then, I'll watch the recording of the actual Grand Prix race, which is, look at me, I'm talking all sorts of French now. Grand Prix.
You're very fancy.
I am so fancy. That's the thing that I like about this.
In a few minutes, we'll find out just how fancy you are, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here.
So anyway, F1 on Apple TV. I'm in.
So how long's a race? Not like laps and things like
an
that.
hour.
Okay, so not too long.
No, it's not. It's a little longer than that. Last night's sprint was 19 laps. So right. Which is I didn't realize that that's another real race that comes in. Like they get points for this, and they're running a race. It's just a little short race on a track that they'll run a big race on the next, in next day and a half or so, and they can tweak their cars after that. The main races, I think, they run about an hour and a half. So. Depending on what goes on. So it's not a huge commitment. It's not like watching a baseball game, which here's another side note. I was watching, they're now using electronic umps.
Saw that.
And I don't think I sent it to you. I sent it to another one of my baseball friends, but they can challenge pitches now.
Yeah.
It's like, are you friggin' kidding me?
That's the Angel Hernandez effect right there.
Yeah. Three pitches challenged, one batter, same batter.
How many challenges do they get? Do you know? I mean, it seems like it can't be unlimited.
No, I don't think it's unlimited, but I think if you win a challenge, you get to keep challenging. So one batter, 3 pitches, right. All of which were the umpire called wrong. Were they close? Yes. Like we're talking, eighths of an inch outside the strike zone or eighth of an inch into the strike zone. But good God, all this stuff that baseball has done over the last couple of years to speed things up. You make the pitchers be on a timer, and you got no more. And this was always one of my favorite things because it usually went south when they did this. But when you're going to intentionally walk a batter, you don't throw the ball. You just tell the batter to go. Sometimes those pitchers, you couldn't get them to do stuff, so the ball would end up, someplace in the stands. And
which always made me laugh. It seems like that'd be like the easiest throw would be like the intentional walk, and they sail it because it's not. It's too easy. Almost
controlled. Anyway, baseball's screwing it up that way, but you have to commit to 3 hours, usually 2.5 hours for a baseball game.
And I see on like Instagram or TikTok or whatever on the reels, they'll show like clips of baseball and basketball from like sometimes as far back baseball, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, football, maybe NBA, definitely, right? Because you went through the 80s. We had Bird and Magic and everybody, Dominique Wilkins, all of them, and then into the 90s and 2000s, we had Kobe and Shaq and Allen Iverson and everybody. And man, I'm telling you, NBA is almost unwatchable for me now. And you can say, "Oh, it's Tom, you're just old," and I get that. I mean, there's some of it. I mean, my dad said the same thing about NFL 20 years ago too. So that's part of it, I'm sure. But they change. The guys are far more athletic, I think. Because 100%. Just the conditioning, the training, everything now is so much more advanced, but it's just not the same. Like And I think most sports have kind of gone that direction too. But so I'm waiting, Jeff, to hear this summer, now that you're into racing, okay, maybe we'll get we record typically on Saturdays. Maybe we'll get a report you do Friday night at a dirt track. That'd be awesome.
Dirt track not far from here in Middletown.
There you go.
I could do that. I could do a Friday night dirt track.
Yeah,
Demo
that'd be
derby.
good.
I could do a demo derby and see how that goes. That would be pretty funny.
So we'll see. Yeah, I checked out the F1 stuff a little bit this morning. I saw that it was they had picked it up and everything, and I checked it out. I checked it out on Vision Pro too because I was curious to see if there was anything they were doing there, maybe by showing like a map or something at the same time. And I spent maybe 10 minutes on it, so I didn't see anything like that. It could just be regular viewing experience, but we're checking out again. But
yeah,
well, I'll be curious to see how long you stick with that.
Yeah, I think it'll end up being I'll watch the races. I'm not going to end up watching all the pre-qualifying rounds and all that kind of stuff. I can see that I don't care too much about that, but the actual races are interesting, and it's very technical. It's not a circle. It's not Daytona where you're which I've been to Daytona on the track years and years and years ago, and you could barely stand on that thing.
Right.
It has such an angle, but going around in a circle doesn't appeal to me at all. But the international quality of these races and the fact that they're driving on these, they're going from 200 miles an hour down to 65 miles an hour. It's just like, it's insane, really, if you think about it. Really kind of fun to watch. So we'll see. I'll let you know. I doubt that I'll make it to the dirt track, but I definitely how I'm doing when I'm watching the F1 races. Which reminds me, I have a friend who I went to grad school with, and she mentioned a couple of years ago that she was into F1, and she was like the least, like a person that you would least expect to be into F1, an artist, a really good writer, working on graphic novels and that kind of stuff, but super into F1 apparently, and was working with them. So I'm going to ping her back and go, I thought less of you. Now you can think less of me.
Yeah, I remember I got into it a little bit, years back, and then fell out. But yeah, I've always liked that style of racing, like you were just alluding to with the hairpin turns and the acceleration, deceleration, and everything. I always thought younger me, not to be a racer, but would like to sit in the car. But I'm pretty sure at my age, at this point, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I don't need that.
Right. Throw up.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, on to the next thing, Tom. And this one I'm kind of excited about. I can see you smiling there.
Tell us about it, Jeff.
There is a project called the Human Flatus Atlas. It's exactly what it sounds like. Apparently, there has never been a study of human farting. So I found out about it the other day, and I thought I am perfectly suited for this.
Tell us why.
Because I fart a lot, Tom.
Nothing wrong with that, Jeff. Everybody does, although some different, to a different degree than others.
Well, and typically, my farting is, we'll just say the essence fills the room. Yeah, it's a little too much information, but if cows are kicking off so much methane that it's a problem with the atmosphere, maybe I would be too. So there has never been a study of human farting. So the Human Flatus Atlas is a means of being able to check and see what it is that happened. So they were looking for 3 classes of people, normal people, you fart a little bit here and there, hydrogen hyper producers, which I think I might be. And just so you're saying, if you're producing 40, 50 or more events, I love this, per day, your microbiome has a lot to teach us. I think everybody in the Battersby, at least the males in the Battersby line, live in that hydrogen hyperproducers lane. And then Zen digesters. The interesting thing was I went to sign up for this, which there will be a link. It's www.flatus.info. Love that. FLATUS. And they had closed the sign up process, but I signed up and got in immediately. So something about my ass speaks volumes, or has the potential to speak volumes.
What was the sign up process? What did you have to information?
So initially you signed up for you joined a wait list. I joined a wait list. Within minutes, I got a message back about that wait list, and I got a message back saying that we want to have you fill out a couple questionnaires. So I filled out a few questionnaires. The first one was how often do you fart? Basically, what are the questions? And, are you an SBD kind of guy, or a combination SBD and not silent but deadly? And, there were a number of questions along that lines. And that initial survey prompted them to say, yeah, we're interested in having you in the study. And so I filled out another survey, some of it agreeing to, what it is that the rules are, which only 3 days. But as you said, there's basically a little air tag that you stick in your underwear, and you have to keep air tag is it's a different kind of air.
So I have a couple questions before we go anywhere. How did you hear about this? Because you sent it to me this week, and I looked at it, but I was tied up and everything. So I'm curious, where did you see this?
It was on Threads. It was.
Oh, so it's got to be legit.
No, it is legitimate. It's not. Yeah, it's for real. It's something
put
on. I want to say it's something out of Johns Hopkins. Let me tell you. Let me go to their website here for a second, and I'll give you some idea what's going on. Hold on a second. I can't remember who it was. Oh, it's Brantley Hall, which is a part of a college. I really think it's part of Johns Hopkins. I could be wrong about that. Maybe you could look it up while I'm doing this.
Okay.
Anyway, I saw that was the case, and I'm like, dude, I fart a lot. I really do. Ask anybody that knows me, anybody that has to live with me. That is a thing. So I thought, I am well suited to this, I think. So I looked him up, and I located information on how to join it. So I went to their website, which I said as previously is flatus.info, and I did what I could to enroll in the survey. So there's an eligibility survey. You go to the eligibility survey, you fill out some basic information, stating that you would do what you do, give you an email. You have to be 18 years old. Do you reside in the United States? Are you pregnant or lactating? I'm neither. Just want to point that out. Would you be willing to wear the smart underwear device and take pictures of all your meals for 3 days? So minimum of 3 days commitment, which is not really a big deal. And then you submitted the form. So I submitted the form. That ended up getting me another option. another survey that I had to fill out. And when I filled that out, they said, you're in. And then I had to do one more set of forms. And I haven't gotten it yet, but they're sending me the AirTag for my butt. And I will wear that for 3 days, take photos of what it is that I'm eating, and it will sniff my butt. I couldn't get anybody to sniff my butt before this time.
With the smart underwear tag.
Other than a dog.
I did look it up. And so the overview says the Human Flatus Atlas project is led by Brantley Hall, an assistant professor in the Department of Cell Biology and Molecular Genetics at the University of Maryland. His team developed smart underwear, a wearable sensor device to measure daily flatulence and map gut microbiome activity. So there you go. Yeah. University.
So anyway, you're looking at it, but I'm part of that study now, Tom, and I'm kind of excited about it.
Nice. When do you get your tag?
I would guess any day now I will get a butt tag. I will provide an update to my butt tagging in our next episode. Sorry.
Great. Nate's never coming back after that.
No, right. Talk about my farts.
Yeah. You made me a little nervous when you said, and they asked if you would mind taking pictures. I was like, oh, no. But thankfully, it's just the food.
Just the food.
Okay,
right?
good.
Not the results.
Not anything else.
No.
That's good. It's an interesting idea, and so I'm curious to see what they're able to determine from this, because I think it was a couple of months ago, might have been 3 or 4 months ago, I sent you a link, and I want to say it was Harvard or somebody, and the reason I sent it to you was, reasons. But there was a study there that they concluded that smelling your own actually raises your IQ. And you were like, I'm a genius. I was like, all right, my man.
Smartest guy in the room.
Well, it's only 2 of us here, so good.
You're right. Just look at me turning my head over my shoulder. You'll know exactly what's going on. I'm really kind of excited. And what's kind of cool is, and kind of weird, is that this has never been studied before.
Yeah,
this is like
because how would you do it? So, yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either. I didn't look into that
yeah.
one I sent you because I was not that curious really, but I was like, wonder how they determined that, or at least hypothesized that this is maybe legit. Right?
Yeah, no, this is real. And to my brother Greg, who was on the show many, many moons ago, about his very long battery car trip on Thanksgiving from L.A. to the Bay Area. Yeah,
Thanksgiving, and he got there Christmas Eve.
Something like that. Yeah, it was pretty close. But what's interesting is that, when he was a kid, he has a scar on his head as a result of this, by the way. He farted into a jar. As I said, this is a family. Yeah, Tom farted into a jar, put his hand over the cover, and then came over and told me that he thought that Timmy, another kid, had been drinking. And he had to breathe into the jar, and that I should smell it. Of course, Johnny on the spot took a big, deep whiff of that, and it was bad. And so I, threw the jar down, chased him around the house, picked him up, and smacked his head into a table. Not intentionally smacked his head into a table, but, balance was off, and he was squirming his way around. So he's got a nice scar on his head as a result of his own fart study.
Who knew it was such high risk?
Yeah, hopefully nobody's going to pick me up and drop me on there. Anyway, that's it, Tom. We burned 50 minutes of everybody's time. In the last part of it, we were talking about farts. So we've degenerated as far as we could possibly degenerate.
Well, let's just say as far as we would like to and still keep listeners. So.
I think we might pick up a few others after.
Yeah, maybe. We would have to change the direction the show goes in, maybe.
Yeah, well.
All right. Take us home, Jeff.
All righty. So feedback, basicafshow.com. Like us. Tell people that you like us and share the show with everybody. We're grateful for the people that we have listen to the show every week, and it does look like a good number every week, and we're really happy about that. So thanks for tuning in. If you tuned in far enough for the farts, sorry, but...
There was a tech angle to it. The tag.
Like,
I'd be curious to see
I got an air tag going to be hanging around my butt for 3 days.
So I'm wondering what sensors are inside that thing. But
I
anyway,
don't know.
we'll come back to that after.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It does have a little charger on its own too, so you have to charge it for a minute.
Okay.
Tom has a newsletter. Tom, where is that?
You can get to that at tomanderson.com.
Yeah, it is a really good newsletter. I even read it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, I read it every time it comes out. Show music, Psychokinetic, Celsius 7, and we're as always grateful in Randall Martin Design for the gloriously legitimate artwork that he has provided for this show, which I still love. I had actually it's kind of interesting. We'll close it out with this. Had a podcast producer at the bar the other night, talking with her for quite some time. She's working on the second season of a podcast that has not shipped their first season yet, but it's kind of a true crime thing. And I told her that we had a podcast. I told her what it was, and she thought the name was quite clever. So she's going to take a listen. But that artwork is brilliant, and we really appreciate it, Randall. Thank you so much for what you did to make
Looks just like us.
It really does. All right, Tommy.
All right. Well, we do appreciate you guys hanging out with us each and every episode. So thank you so much for that. And so that will wrap this one up. Until the next episode in a couple of weeks, do have a great rest of your day or your night.
See ya.
I don't want to know about your imperfections.